For this next segment, we are going to be looking at the change of state spending. In this graph here, you will see the change in state spending between fiscal year 15 and fiscal year 19. Here in the graph, you can see the biggest color, which is blue, and that represents agency spending, which is education, healthcare, Department of Natural Resources, Department of Transportation, etc. So collectively, agency spending was reduced by just about 3.25% between fiscal year 15 and fiscal year 18. Buried within the data is that some of the agencies were cut a lot more than others, and there was cost shifting between designated general funds and undesignated general funds and other state funds. Regardless, Health and Social Services and Department of Education remain the largest cost drivers. The other story is in the colors, the top part of the graph. Fund capitalization, which is orange, oil and gas tax credits, which is yellow, and capital spending is red, were the largest cuts between fiscal year 2015 and fiscal year 18. The takeaway here is for all the cutting that has been reported in the last few years, agency spending, which is actual government day-to-day operations, has been cut very, very little. Unfortunately, we are beginning to see budget creep in fiscal year 19. The governor's budget for fiscal year 19 is about 2.25% bigger than fiscal year 18. So the issue with budget reductions is that every program has a constituency that will passionately and convincingly advocate for their program's continuation. But as you can see in the previous slide, there is room to decrease the budget. I poured through 2 recent audits on the Department of Education and the Department of Health and Social Services to look for ways where we could reduce the budget and not impact programs. I amassed several ideas and put it on in one document and presented it to several legislators as well as to the Walker administration. And there has been some support on all sides of the aisle that there is potentially room for discussion and for budget reductions. A couple examples are, right now, school districts, we have about 53 school districts across the state, and many school districts use their own individual software for creating an IEP, which is an individualized education plan for students. So if a student is in, let's say, the Bethel region, and the teacher deems that he needs an IEP, they will go into their software program and complete this IEP for the student. If the student subsequently moves to a different district, then oftentimes the district has their own individualized education plan software, and so the student will have to go through the whole process again, which is pretty lengthy and very costly. The recommendation by the audit was to have all the districts on one software platform so they can talk to one another, so when students transfer between districts, the IEP will transfer with him or her and make it much more streamlined. One of the second recommendations with Health and Social Services was potentially the elimination of field site visits each year. So for example, there are many departments that need to do physical inspections on buildings each year. Maybe the Pioneer homes, maybe public assistant offices, just various different real estate buildings around the state. Many of these departments will send their own representatives to the same town throughout the year. One of the recommendations in the audit was to send one person from Health and Social Services to, let's say, Bethel, with 4 or 5 different clipboards, and he or she will do the inspections on behalf of several of the departments using a standardized form. This way, you eliminate multiple visits to the same community and instead consolidate the visits. I think there's been some agreement that this is a potential area that we can make reductions.